Hey everybody, welcome back to Bible Fun with the Duns. We ended this week in our readings with Mark chapter number 15. Now, here's what that means. That means that today we read about the death of Jesus on the cross. And Monday when we start off, we get to start off the week with Easter. I mean, that's great. And so when we read this, I started thinking about how we would talk about this, because here's the deal. It's not like you just sit down and you look at the camera and you go, well, Jesus died. We all know this story. No. We can't take this story lightly. Like, this is everything the Bible has been leading to since the book of Genesis. Okay? Ever since Genesis chapter 1 told us who we are and where we came from. All right? Genesis chapter 3 tells us how we got here, how the world was broken, and the prophecy of the Messiah. Now we get to everything the Bible's been leading about. And then we get to go into Monday morning reading about the resurrection. So we can't take this lightly. Now, I want to do you a favor here. I want to redeem some of the frustration you had a little bit. Okay, so before we started the Gospel of Mark, we read the book of Leviticus. Now, here's the deal. Some of you really liked Leviticus. Some of you, I hope, developed a new appreciation for Leviticus. And some of you were like, man, I'm glad I did it. I'm glad I read it, but it was hard. All right, let me go ahead and talk to you. Those of you who read Leviticus and you remember Leviticus, I need you to understand, you now should understand the cross of Jesus better than you've ever understood it before, because you've recently been in the book of Leviticus. Why? Because Leviticus is the worship book of the Bible. It is the sacrifice book of the Bible. It is about, and here's a key term. We talked about this when we were in Leviticus. Do you remember the term substitutionary atonement? Okay? Substitution, like one is substituted for another. Atonement means, like between us and God, where the distance between us and God is vast because there's sin, right? So atonement is at one ment. Write it out and just put dashes. At one ment. Atonement. So substitutionary atonement means that Jesus took my place and I took his place. He gave me his righteousness and I gave him my sinfulness. And because of that, he gave at one ment, atonement between a sinner and God. Now, in the book of Leviticus, it was all about lambs and bulls and rams and birds and all this kind of stuff. But notice this. Whenever sin was involved, something had to die, something's blood had to be drained in order for somebody who was guilty to be forgiven. They were guilty. It's not like this was like, well, maybe they did it or didn't. No. We're guilty in our sins. While we're guilty, we deserve sin and death and hell. But substitutionary atonement means God has provided the mechanism where Jesus would take our place, like lambs and rams and bulls did in the days of Leviticus. The little sheep would die so a sinner could be forgiven. Jesus died so all sinners could be forgiven. That's what all of Leviticus was about. Now, when you're reading Mark chapter 15, you go, well, I didn't really see that in there. Yes, you did. Remember in Mark chapter 15, the Bible gives us this story, and you go, well, it's kind of a side story, really. No. It's the central story. So when Jesus is being examined by the high priest, by the way, what did they have to do in Leviticus? The priests had to thoroughly examine an animal to make sure he was unblemished and spotless. That's what was going on. They didn't realize that, but their whole trial system, they are examining him, and he's God. By the way, they knew what he was claiming to be. They didn't kill him because he was being difficult. They killed him because he was claiming to be the Christ. So now you've got this deal where Jesus is about to, be sentenced. And Pilate says, hey, do you want me to release him? And they said, no, do not release him. And he says, well, I'm going to release somebody. And they said, give us Barabbas, a man who instigated a riot and murdered somebody. Jesus was in the middle of this moment, okay? They had already scheduled crucifixion for after this. Now, Pilate did not intend that that was what Jesus was going to do. Pilate was hoping to release him, but they got to get through this moment with Jesus first. Pilate thinks he's going to just give Jesus away and then just go about his day. They were about to crucify 3 guys. This was the opening act. That was supposed to be the closing act. The guy who was supposed to die on that middle cross that day was named Barabbas. And the people were screaming, "Give us Barabbas." So literally, Jesus went from that trial, Barabbas was released, and they switched places. The reason the Bible tells us that, substitutionary atonement. He substituted out for Barabbas. Barabbas got to live because Jesus died in his place. By the way, we're telling that story because we are Barabbas. That's what Jesus did for each of us. We have that story so that we'll go, oh, yeah, that's me. Okay? Now, go back even further. So in Genesis 1, we learned who we are and where we came from. Genesis 3 is the fall. That's how we got into this mess. So as soon as the fall happens, right? Adam and Eve are sent out of the garden. They have kids. Now we go to the first, it's not the first, but it's the first recorded worship service. Cain and Abel show up. They both bring offerings. Abel offers an animal of the herd. God accepts his offering. His heart is right on it. Okay? Cain is not accepted. And we know Cain gets angry and he eventually kills his brother, right? He did not receive his own brother. He killed his own brother. The Jews, the family of Jesus, are killing Jesus, okay? Cain's offering was not accepted. And by the way, he spirals, right? He goes out of control. His offering's not accepted. He's mad. He's ready to murder. As sinners, we go all the way back and we stand in the sandals of Cain. We too have no acceptable offering for our sin. We bring nothing to the table. We bring no goodness, no shred of decency. Why? All of our righteousness is like filthy rags. So Cain's offering was not accepted. Well, you go, what about Jesus? Certainly. Jesus' offering was absolutely accepted for the sins of the world. You go, well, how do you know? You remember that last part? When Jesus died, there was a miracle that happened in the temple. The huge veil that separated the Holy of Holies from everything else, the veil rips in half, opening access between God and man. Well, what is access between God and man, where God and man can finally be joined together? Atonement, right? Man, at one minute again. And you go, well, what's the pathway now? Jesus has already answered that too. I am the way, the truth, and the life, and no man comes to the Father except through me. You go through Jesus. Jesus says, I am the door. He's the door. So the veil is ripped in half. Why? Because Jesus' offering for the sins of the world was accepted. Now sinners can be reconciled to God. When you're reading the crucifixion, please remember what you've been reading in Leviticus and go, this is it. And then you got it. All right? We'll see you on Monday and we're going to have Easter. See you then. Bye.